Sometimes life lets you down and you feel that you are done. You just want a morning run because the fun is all gone. But sometimes life makes you proud when you look far and wide, when you leave the pain behind and see the brighter side. TNC gives you inspiration. TNC reignites your passion. TNC starts your transformation. TNC helps you see the new you.
The new channel. The new channel.
The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following show are those of the hosts, producers, guests, and viewers. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the new channel, here to help you see the new you. This is Jesse Francis Rebustillo, your host to this wonderful program, HR Hotline. Welcome back to HR Hotline. What is wonderful with live streaming, it's after the live streaming, the recorded episodes can be shared. And this is actually it happens after 2 hours, after a day, a lot of viewers are viewing the HR Hotline episodes. I just came from a webinar up to Thursday. It's actually, I don't know, the Employers Confederation of the Philippines training group scheduled me for webinars on TTAs. So from 9 to 11:50, I was actually teaching. So pardon my voice; it's a little bit hoarse already because I was so, me, I'm so engaged when I do seminars. At that time, you use a microphone. This time, you're talking to a camera. So sometimes you stress points and you use your voice. Today, our topic, I mentioned it earlier, and it's a topic that is very relevant. We are actually still in the work from home arrangements or alternative work arrangements, and we are using collaborative tools, Zoom, Webex, Teams, Google Teams, for our synchronous and asynchronous meetings. There is a need for management to make sure that employees are engaged. There is a need for HR to initiate and facilitate that the employees, the people in the organization, are taken care of. And one of the best interventions that we can do now is mentoring. Mentoring. I, for one, I have mentors. I can even consider our special guest as a mentor. A mentor can just it can be structured, which we are going to discuss, and it can be a comfortable or familiar. PP Orbit, who is watching us now, is a mentor. I was his vice president, and then before that we were together in committees and PMAP, and he usually maybe his that is his personality. He is a trainer. He teaches me, mentors me. I have a best friend, family. Sometimes I'm the one giving her advice, counseling her, or mentoring her. And there are many times is the one telling me things or mentoring me. Mentoring is starts with your life. How you're going to be in the future, how you're going to achieve your aspirations. Benchmarking. Everybody needs to have a mentor. Time immemorial. You need to have one to mentor you. Jesus Christ is one. He's a very, very effective mentor. That was his intervention for the apostles. And I'm very sure his mother mentored him. I'm just curious what Saint Joseph and Mother Mary showed, manifested, and taught him to come up with such a. Of course, he's God. Then we have Plato, Socrates, then we have a long history. They always have one mentor. We have teachers, but teachers can, if they go beyond the process of educating us, become our mentors. I have teachers before in grade school that up to now, but a lot of them are gone. But I still have one, Dean Vega. We are friends in Facebook, and she still gives me advice and mentors me with life. But you know, in organization, which is most needed, there should be a program to do it. There should be a structure to do it. A structure because what are we actually leading to? Why are we developing that person? Especially if it is for succession planning, especially if it is for engagement of employees, for his performance and productivity. Somebody should mentor him. So here comes a guy who's a little bit weak and needs some inspiration, needs some monitoring. Aside from the seminars or posters or readings that you require, you need somebody to mentor that person, leading to that goal or objective, what you want that person to be. But the problem is if the person doesn't want to be mentored. So it has to be collaborative. The mentees should be willing. The mentees should be awed. The mentees should make should believe in the credibility of the mentor. And the mentor must have that experience, must have that expertise to share. And the mentor must be able to tutor, to teach. In the Philippine Association of Professional Speakers, we have an association mentorship program. And I share with them that. And I also got it from Archie in Long. The quality of the teacher, the quality of a tutor should be present in the mentor so that the mentee will believe that he will get or gain something from that person. It's easier said than done. Somebody should put it into a process, put a structure to it, or even when they do it on the time that they're doing mentoring, there should be a frame, which is what I share in my webinars. Everything, every time, that there's an opportunity for you to mentor, there should be a frame of thought. It is not just as if you're telling stories. Of course, you tell stories, but there should be a frame. The problem sometimes, we cannot distinguish mentoring from coaching, coaching from counseling. That we are going to ask from our special guest. Our special guest is actually a friend and my idol. There was a time that I am a little bit shy, not actually afraid, to really come near him because he's my idol. When I was early on with my in the association in PMAP, I regard this person very much because he exudes, he manifests a lot of competency, and that is actually a quality of a mentor. I am oh, he's awesome. He used to be a former SVP and HR director of a top universal bank here in the Philippines. But I've known him earlier for more than 20 years, 30 years when I was with Pima. Always on top, always an HR top position, leading organizations to successes. He is a member, a member of a board of trustees of various NGOs, a former columnist, um, an editor in Manila Times, and a PMAP diploma program uh, facilitator in San Beda, in University of Makati, in De La Salle, started teaching HR since 2001. He is a professor. He is the 2011 People Management Association of the Philippines president, 2011 president of PIMA. But you know, I've known him closely because he is, for the longest time, the, the lead or the head of the programs committee of the PMAP annual conferences. And you know, I also am engaged in sometimes a marker in That's where I started, a barker in Raffles, then officers of the day, and then sometimes I try to be engaged in coming up with the program. When I was president, I was really engaged in how we're going to come up with a wonderful program for the annual conference. And then that time, we invited Dave Ulrich. And what amazes me, this person is very innovative and creative because every time wherein he leads the program, which is actually the focal point of the energy of annual conferences, it's different. Year in, year out, you expect something wonderful from the AC. So he is actually a source of what they call this thoughts. Recently, we have an event wherein we read poems, and I was one of them, and I thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Schubert Caesar Bong Austero. Sir Bong, I will call you Sir Bong. Allow me
Hello,
to
hello, Jesse. Good afternoon,
thank
everyone.
you, thank you, thank you very much. Just like me, you have also paintings at your back. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I
Can you,
paint.
you also, yeah,
I'm looking.
actually,
I was looking at the paintings behind you, and I was thinking, is one of my paintings there? No, it's not there.
no, your painting is actually in front of me because it has colors and it is inspired. It's in front of me. I'll take a picture and I'll show it to you. It's after the frame wherein I place the camera and it's there. And it's there.
Okay.
It's a watercolor painting. You are at home now,
Yes, I'm at home. I'm at home.
and I know you joined the Happy Retiree Club of PMAP.
Well, temporarily, I hope.
Yes, temporarily because I know you
I'm still
just like
young.
yeah, just like me. I'm still working. I just finished a webinar with Echo. Just can we start our conversation? Is it okay? We start our
Sure,
conversation. Yeah.
sure, sure.
So now, even the topic is about mentoring, and I would like to ask you what got you interested into the mentoring as a program. I know you have been HR on top of HR. So what is it that why is it that you have been insisting that there should be mentoring programs in your organization?
Yeah,
What does
yeah, that's actually one of the labels that people use to describe me. People describe me as a mentor, and I've known in the HR circuit as a mentoring guy. I've always believed since I was maybe in high school or in college that successful people never reach their goals alone. Okay, in fact, most of us are where we are because we had someone who mentored us, and I've been privileged to have had really great mentors all my life, and I don't think I would have reached the positions that I've reached if I didn't have great mentors. So I thought, it's something that should be nourished and perpetuated and embedded in the organizational cultures of most organizations. And that got me interested in mentoring.
right, right? Ephemery Kabantak is watching us and was telling us that I need a little bit of sense. Yes, yes. And he would like to say hello. Right. So just like you, I'm also blessed that along the way, somebody has been my mentor. Pipi Bong, my grandfather mentored me. I stay here alone in Manila, and there was a time that he stayed with me, and that was a quality time because a lot of things I learned from somebody. But this is what is comfortable. This is actually in the family. But along the way also, I I was mentored by George Revilla in Student Assistant Committee. Then, Mr. Santa Maria. Nasa kulto po ako nun. So, nice, nice. Nice. So, Sir Bong, how do you actually define mentoring? Just for the viewers now.
Alright. Well, it's basically a relationship. Okay,
That,
mentoring is basically a relationship because people tend to get technical and get lost in all the terminology. So it's very important for us to focus on the key point. Mentoring is a relationship between two people. Um, Ideally between somebody who supposedly has wisdom that he or she wants to impart to another person. Well, it can also be a conversation, whether it's long term or short term. But what it is really a relationship built on mutual trust. And hopefully, the goal is always development, to develop people, no? The mentee or even the mentor himself, because at the end, it should be a two-way relationship.
yes. Now, so how come that it has to be formalized in organizations?
Well, most earlier you were talking about many mentors that you've had in your life, and the same with me. I've had a lot of mentors in my life. There were personal mentors, there were spiritual mentors, there were technical mentors for specific things, and I was just learning how to write. For example, I had writing mentors, and then when I was into theater, I had acting mentors and script writing mentors. But for the most part, most mentoring relationships, they are based on gut feel and intuition, like a lot of trial and error. Okay. And most of the time, it's really based on a personal relationship. There are dangers to that. No, I mean, of course, it can be a personal relationship, but in a formal setting in most companies, if it's a very very personal mentoring relationship, when the mentor goes, the mentees also go with him.
Yeah.
Okay, so but that's the reality. The loyalty belongs to the mentor, not to the organization. And very often, the organization does not get to manage or loses control of the whole mentoring process. There is no measurement, there is no way of tracking development, because it becomes a deeply personal relationship. And that is why one of my advocacies in my career as an HR person was really to formalize and put a structure to the mentoring process. No, and when I say a structure, what I mean really is that a clear process, a clear deliverables, but the conversation itself, is remains confidential and private to the two individuals. Okay, but there has to be a way of managing the whole thing, matching the mentee and the mentor, making sure that they have conversations, making sure that the process is safe for everybody, and making sure that the objectives of the mentoring program, are met. That's what I mean when I say it has to be formalized. It has to be embedded in the culture of the organization because, every organization has its own culture. So, how they do mentoring will be completely different for each organization.
But Sir Bong, it would be scary if you just assign people to be mentors and then you assign mentees. What are your
Correct.
thoughts on this? Because usually that is what I learned from companies doing a mentoring program. They try to train managers to be mentors and then later on assign mentees to be mentees of mentors. Is that okay?
Well, um, okay. The one of the myths of and this I learned the hard way. Okay, when we were setting up our mentoring program in the bank that I used to work for, 12, 13 years ago, we were driven by the belief that good intentions are enough. If one wants to be a mentor, go ahead, mentor people. Okay,
Uh,
but that's a myth. So if you're going to ask me, can everybody be a mentor? The answer to that
yes.
is no. and yes. No, in the sense that there are certain relational competencies that you need to have. Okay? Foremost of which is you need to be a little nurturing. Okay? Hindi pwedeng
Okay.
sarado yung utak mo. Hindi pwedeng
Uh,
prejudiced ka, di ba?
uh,
You have to be a little open to change kasi it's usually cross-generational. If you're judgmental of the new generation, then your mentoring sessions will be very, very biased. It will be full of criticism and judgment. And mentoring sessions cannot be like that. You have to be open. You have to be an open person. Okay, so that's one relational competency. The technical competency is not so much because as differentiated from coaching, the focus of mentoring is the person as
yes.
opposed to coaching where the focus is performance. Hindi yung tao
Right.
eh. When you coach somebody because you want the person to perform better. And it's
Right.
usually problem focused. You coach somebody because there is a problem and you want the person to become better at what he's doing. In mentoring, it's not problem focused. It's potential focused. You're looking at the future. You're looking at what else needs to be unlocked in the person so that the person reaches his or her full potential. Okay, so it's potential focus. So, in other words, um, mentors need to be trained to become mentors. And that's what we did in the bank that I work for. We actually developed training programs. And it was not just one program. It was like a series of programs to certify people as mentors. Kasi hindi pwedeng willingness lang to become a mentor ang basis for one person to be accepted as a mentor. So that's one, the training to become a mentor. The second one is there has to be a match between the needs of the
Right.
mentee and the mentor. So there has to be a matching process. Okay. And there has to be an exit clause. Like if it's not working, there must be a way for both to get out of the relationship. Kasi we'll have to accept it. There are personalities often that get in the way of a nurturing relationship. So there has to be an exit clause for both of them to get out of the mentoring relationship. So there has to be a matching process. And that is why in most organizations, there has to be a mentoring manager, okay, who oversees. And that's what we go back to the original question. That's why organizations need to manage the mentoring process to make sure that there is fit between a mentor and a mentee.
Can you please share to us what are the things what are the areas that a mentor should be trained?
Oh,
Say you said about training for mentors. What are these
yeah.
areas?
In our case, the first was a mentoring program. Okay, just a 4-day program that that trains the mentors in terms of how to do mentoring sessions, and then after that, there's a coaching for mentors. Then there's a consulting because there are many kinds of mentoring situations. Okay, sometimes the mentor is purely a facilitator, and that takes facilitation skills. In other words, when you're a facilitator, you're just there to manage the process. All the inputs are from the mentee. You're just there to make sure that the mentee, finds a way to get out of the situation that he or she is in. But there are situations where the mentor is actually a counselor. And for that, the mentor needs to have counseling skills, right?
Yeah.
So that's another area. Okay.
Mhm.
But if the mentor does not have the competencies, he or she needs to understand that it's beyond her competency area. And therefore, he or she needs to refer the person. But kasi it's also a myth that you only need one mentor. In the bank
Ah,
that I work for, we define mentoring as either a long-term relationship, pwedeng for 2 years,
yep,
pwedeng forever habang magkaibigan kayo o magkasama kayo. O
yep.
pwede rin isang beses lang, one-off. Like a person can come to me and say, Sir Bong, I need a mentor for a project that I'm working on. Can you give me a mentor for this specific project? And it's a one-off relationship. So it's a technical mentor.
Okay.
Okay? So,
Okay.
so the skills and the competencies that a mentor needs is
Yeah.
really varied. Okay? So, but the basics really are, facilitation skills, coaching skills, consulting skills, counseling skills. So those are the basics.
Okay. We'll have first a break, then we'll go back to that. Share with us the different types of mentors. After we
Sure.
let's have the first break. Okay. Wonderful conversations with Sir Bong Austero.
Thank you.
Welcome back to HR Hotline, and we're having wonderful conversation with past president of PMAP, Bong Austero, on mentoring. But before we continue, let me read and flash the various TNC programs. You have to tune in to TNC from Mondays to Fridays. We have the big picture of Lloyd Luna, and we have the family business on Saturdays. Fourth project by Bob Kilapio, Usapang Beauty on Thursdays, and an original show, COVID Stories. Then we also have U-Turn, that is the show before my the HR program. Then Dante Salamat's The Buyer, The Home Buyer, The Puppet Stories of Wan Lu, and then the TNC Marketplace. We have YOLO from on Thursdays at 8:30. Then we have Health Healthline, Foreign Affairs, Danny, Win Within, After Shift, and The Talk. So you have to tune in and view shows at the new channel. And of course, don't forget the HR hotline. I'm your lunch date on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So let's go back to Sir Bong Austero. Tell us, Sir Bong, you just told us the competencies. So what are the types of mentors? What are the types of mentors? What?
Okay. Before I forget, Jesse, I because she messaged me. Um, one of the persons who really helped us in the previous bank that I worked for was Maribel Agripay. She was the one who ran most of the mentoring programs for us in PNB, including, by the way, bago ko lang makalimutan, it's just not the mentors that need to be trained before a mentoring session. You also need to train the mentees. So we actually have a one-day mentee development program to prepare them for the mentoring sessions. Kasi, just to make sure that their expectations are clear and that they know exactly how to make the most out of a mentoring program. So importante din ang mentee development. Okay? So anyway, to answer your question, like I said, there are many types of mentor. It depends on the needs of the organization and the needs of the mentee himself or herself. Okay? Kasi may mga mentee talaga, for example, ang kailangan nila is maturity, help in achieving maturity. Kasi especially the current generation, yung let's not talk about the generation na lang kasi that's a little judgmental. No matter how many programs we run, we just have to face the truth that we're developing these people too fast. Okay? They're becoming, during our generation, you become a manager at a certain age. Itong mga batang ito ngayon, they become a manager at a very young age. Okay?
Yes.
And they become vice presidents at also a very young age because, their skill sets are different. But unfortunately, you cannot just fast track emotional maturity. Okay? Because that requires exposure to different experiences in life. I mean, there's just no way you can fast track emotional resilience. Kasi kailangan dumaan ka talaga sa heartbreaks bago masabing you have emotional maturity. So sometimes, in the bank that I worked for, most of the mentees were graduates of our management training programs, very high potential people, high performing individuals, but very young individuals that need, mentoring on how to handle, for example, politics in an organization. Kasi hindi nila mag-gets yun eh. Bakit kailangan may politics? Okay? Maturity situations, how to behave in certain situations. Of course, there will always be technical mentors. For example, if you are a trader, you need a trader mentor, okay, to help you with the technical intricacies of trading. But there are also such a thing as a role model mentor. Okay, you basically want to sit down with somebody that you want to emulate for the rest of your life, diba? Kasi you probably want to pattern yourself after a certain person who is so relaxed and so calm. Like, alam naman natin yun, di ba, Jesse? Like ako, I wish I can be a Sonny Coloma, in terms of how he manages situation, palaging cool, hindi yata nagagalit yun kahit... So there are role model mentors, and then there are counselor mentors. Okay, if you're stressed out, or yung mga ganon, you wanna just sit down with somebody who can sort out your anxiety and sort out your priorities. But there are also such a thing as peer mentors. Kasi because the myth is that only older people can mentor younger people. That's not necessarily true. It can be actually reverse mentoring, where a young person mentors somebody who's much, much older. Okay? Yep. For example, I am being mentored today by somebody very, very young on vlogging kasi I don't get quite the hang of it, diba? Yung ibang audience iba ang way to capture, to engage them. And then you have spiritual mentors because we all need spirituality, some form of spirituality. It depends on the needs of the organization and the needs of the mentee. So the important thing is, regardless of what the mentoring need is, the the relationship is built on mutual trust and development. Yun ang importante.
How will a person know that he is one such mentor that you just described? Who will be the one?
Well,
Kasi categories,
well,
these are categories.
mm-mm.
I was listening to you and I was just trying to place myself. Where am I in the what you just mentioned? How will I
Well,
know that I'm one?
it helps talaga if the organization has a
Yeah,
mentoring manager.
yeah.
Okay, it really helps, and that is why in the organizations that I work for, there's always somebody who's in charge of the mentoring program. That's why
Yeah.
you have to set it up talaga. Somebody has to champion it. You cannot leave it to chance that people will that you throw people at each other's paths and that's it. Okay na 'yan kasi total, 'di ba? Expert naman yung mentor eh, 'di ba? It
And
doesn't
that
work
is
that
very,
way.
that is actually yung popular. That is actually, kasi almost everybody has a mentoring program, and what is popular is they just try to train. They they they, they have
They
seminars
think
for
that
them.
yeah, they think that if you put up the program, that's it. Hindi yan
No,
siya
no, no.
ganun kadali. Hindi siya ganun kadali. It's there's a matching process and there's a way you need to monitor the whole program because people do drop out of mentoring relationships and you need to find out why. Okay. And you also need to manage the exit process. Okay. When people drop out of a mentoring process, somebody needs to process that. Kasi baka naman traumatic experience for both.
Now that you are telling us that, so what are the myths of mentoring practices here in the Philippines? And let us share your thoughts, and now we are going to correct that. What are the
What are
myths?
the? Ah,
Yeah.
well, the first myth is that everybody can be a mentor. That's the first myth. That good intentions are enough. That's the first myth. Okay, because no, not everybody actually. I mean, good intentions can bring you to a certain point, but beyond that, there has to be a little science to it. There has to be a little structure to it. Okay. Um, the second myth is that only successful people can be mentors. That's also a myth. Even failures can become good mentors, di ba? Somebody who has failed can probably bring more wisdom into the process. Okay, what is important is not the technical expertise, not
You can
the
call him a failure champion. You're a failure champion.
yes, it's not the position, it's not the rank of the person. It's really
Yes.
the relational competencies that are important. The third myth siguro is that people look at mentoring as a standalone program. Cannot be. The mentoring program needs to be embedded in your culture. It needs to be linked to succession management. It needs to be linked to your leadership program. It needs to be linked to performance management kasi yung mentoring sessions need to be factored into the performance appraisal of people, how
So
good you are at mentoring.
it actually integrates the various
Yes.
talent development functions. You missed to mention OD. Kasi basta nagsabi ng OD, we have a mentoring program. Hindi siguro, that's a myth.
Yeah, that's a myth. That's a myth. That is why when I get invited to talk about mentoring programs and how we did it, because I take pride in really saying that we have one of the more robust programs because it took us 12 years to set it up.
Wow.
12 years, okay? Before
Oh.
I could before we could say that we had a mentoring program in place. It took me 12 years to build it. And 12 years and about 4 presidents. Okay? And if you were to ask me, what are the other myths? Is that it cannot be mentor driven. It has to be mentee driven. And therefore,
Wow.
you need to train mentees for mentoring. Hindi pwedeng mentor lang ang focus.
Yep. Okay, so with that, tell us what are the advantages and what are the benefits of having a structured mentoring program?
Well,
Take a minute,
okay,
Sir Bong, before you answer that, we have been using structured. Can you just share what do you mean by structured? What is the
okay.
phrase?
But when I say structure, there has to be a policy. First
Oh,
of all,
good.
it has to be written. Okay, the the roles need to be clear. Okay, when I say structure, I mean um, what is the process in matching a mentor and a mentee?
Right.
Okay, and then you need to set in place, for example, what are the limits of the mentor. For example, you can say in the bank that I work for, we say no mentoring sessions beyond 9 p.m. No
Hmm.
mentoring sessions outside of these areas. Okay. Um, okay. What about confidential discussions? So there has to be a structure to that. You also need to have a structure that says when can a mentor say, I'm sorry, I had to cut this session and I am forced to report this to HR.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you need to be clear about those things. For example, if it's a life and death situation, if your mentee is talking about suicide, there has to be a structure to what needs to be done. Okay, or for example, if the mentee feels that there is a sexual harassment issue,
Yep.
there has to be a structure on how that has to be dealt
I,
with. Okay,
yep.
and also there needs to be clear rewards for everybody. What's in it for the mentor? Kasi hindi naman pwedeng all for the love of mentoring, di ba? I mean, there has to be something. Okay, um, and then stuff like how do you exit a relationship, a mentoring relationship? That's what I mean when I say mentor. And then how do you have to make sure that the reports are easy to make so that you don't get stuck in the numbers game, di ba? Kasi ang dami-daming forms na fini-fill out. So in our case, it was a simple slip of paper na check lang and then just submit it, okay? Just to make sure that people are meeting and that there are discussions happening. Okay, but so I hope that answers your question. But okay, what are the clear
Benefits.
benefits?
Yes, the
Okay,
benefits.
um, when when we had a mentoring program, one of the easiest to gauge was in the exit interview. We actually get to ask the question: did you have a mentor in the bank? Were you mentored effectively? Okay, and our experience shows that one of the top reasons cited for not leaving the organization is that I cannot leave my mentor. Nahiya ako sa mentor ko. Di
Mm.
ba? Nahiya ako magpaalam sa mentor ko. So in
Mm-hmm.
other words, talagang one of the top reasons for retention of high potential people is a mentoring program.
Yep.
Okay? So totoo nga talaga yung sinasabi ng iba that people don't resign from organizations. They resign from bosses.
Yep.
Di ba? So one of the reasons why people stay is having a good mentor. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so clearly one of the benefits, no, kasi nga um, we're known for having a program. We were known for having one of the best management training programs. No, unfortunately, one of the disadvantages of having a really successful management program is that you're targeted for piracy. Parang pag natapos yung kontrata ng management trainees mo, they're pirated by everybody. So
Marketable
that's why
na.
we set up a mentoring program. Okay, so that's one of the clear benefits: the retention of high potentials. But we've also found out in our engagement surveys that mentoring program helps in terms of drive. That people are more driven when they have mentors. Okay, they actually have clearer career goals and they have a clearer picture of how to get there. Okay, more than the technical stuff. Okay, because for young people, it's more important for them to know that they're getting somewhere. Okay, they don't really worry about how to get there. They're just worried about, I'm going somewhere and I'm gonna get there.
Yeah.
Also, maturity problems. Kasi nga, like, mahirap kasi ituro yung mga bagay-bagay sa loob. May mga bagay na mahirap ituro sa loob ng classroom. How to behave in certain situations. You cannot tell people you're too aggressive or you're too sexual. Or, yung mga ganon. Those discussions need to be done one-on-one. And very often what we do is we engage the mentor and we say, for example, if somebody gives me a feedback about someone, I share it with a mentor. So the first question I ask is, who is that person's mentor? And I sit down with the mentor and I tell the person, look, I just got feedback. Your mentee has been observed to lack in certain things. Okay? Taklesa, o kaya yung ganito. Okay, so can you please manage the situation? So, yung maturity issues are discussed in a more empowering situation. Okay. And of course, yung commitment to the organization, because the mentor becomes the symbol of the organization. So parang he or she represents the whole organization as far as the mentee is concerned. But above all else talaga, the major benefit of the mentoring program is self-management in terms of the mentee. The person becomes responsible for his or her own career and his own development. Kasi nga, if you're in a mentoring relationship, you eventually drive it yourself. You seek your mentor. You guide the discussions. The mentor just sits there and provides the structure to the discussion. But the content has to be driven by the mentee himself or herself.
Okay.
Siya ang nag-decide ng pag-usapan natin ngayon.
Well, I have questions on that later on after our break. But I'm just curious. So not all managers can be good mentors.
No,
Hindi ba pwede, no?
No. In fact, I've been in situations where I have to take someone out of the mentoring program. Kahit gustong-gusto niya. Kahit feeling niya, ang galing-galing kong mentor. But you have to be upfront with the person and say, I'm sorry, but there's no match. Okay? You're better off as a technical mentor, but not as a counselor or as a... So dapat pang one-off sessions ka lang.
Okay. Time runs so fast. We'll have another break and then I have a couple of questions to do before we do our parting messages. No? Can we have the break now, Marvin? We are now in this portion of how do we fare with our job, FARE. So, getting it from Sir Bong, we have to make sure that we have a structured mentoring programs in our organization and make sure that we have trained mentors. Allow me also to mention in our job fair that there are vacancies available at Will Desena and Associates Inc. And you can send your resumes to recruitment at wdainc.com.ph. Also, there are vacancies with Puzzlebox, and you can send your applications to careers at puzzlebox-inc.com. Let me also endorse one Algon. They need nurses, security guards, occupational therapists, and you can apply at algonplace at gmail.com. Let me also endorse the the regional conference of Cebu that will be on October um, 7 and 7, 8, 18. Yes, I am one of the panelists, and they have great speakers, Karen Davila and Francis Kong. Also, PMAP's annual conference and PSTD Digital National Conference. PMAP is actually on October 21, 22, and 23, and PSTD is on November 15 and 16. What is flashed there on the screen are the rate cards so that you can start your enrollment or register and join us in these wonderful events. Also, we have POPs uh, annual conference on October 15 and 16. It will be on total online presence, and we have a number of speakers, both uh, members of POPs and guests from abroad. Thank you, Bobby. Okay, so let's go back to Sir Bom because we lack time and I have lots of questions to ask from him. Okay, Sir Bom, in your experience, what are the requirements of a good mentoring program? Tell us so that we can benchmark and we can copy. What are the requirements of a good mentoring program?
Well, to begin with, kailangan talaga you need clear support from the top of the organization. Okay, because it needs to be driven somewhere in the organization. Okay, fortunately for me, I've always had the support. First of all, when we started the program, the president at the time was 101% behind it. So that's why we were able to gain traction. And then later on, because I was championing it and I was, HR head. So kailangan talaga may mag-drive ng program from the top of the organization. Kasi kung wala, it won't get anywhere. Okay, so that's one. Kailangan maliwanag din, why are you doing the mentoring program? Okay, what is it for in the organization? Because unless you don't, if you're just doing it because you want to...
For compliance.
Yeah, or because you want your organization to look good, medyo, you won't get anywhere. Okay. Also, for example, the reward system, what's in it for everyone needs to be clear also to everyone. Okay, that is why the policy, you need to set up a policy and you need to make sure that the aim is to institutionalize the program, embed it clearly in the organization. It cannot be a standalone program. It's with training, diba? And it's just one of the things that you do. So dapat maliwanag talaga siya.
It's not an activity. It has to be integrated in the total functions. Maraming functions of talent management. Now, just a couple of questions before we end. Now, who should drive the mentoring relationship? You mentioned about relationship.
It has to be the mentee. Eventually, it has to be the mentee. In fact, every time I'm asked, what is your ultimate measure of a successful mentoring program? Is when to my mind, your mentoring program becomes successful if your mentees become mentors.
Mhm.
Okay? When your mentee actually reaches a certain level that they become advocates of mentoring themselves.
Oh God.
Okay.
That's
So
the tipping point. That's a pivot. That's the pivot.
yeah. So also the goal should be to render the mentors obsolete. Like the mentee needs to assume responsibility for it. So the operational objective is one day I'm not going to need you anymore. Okay, because I can do it myself.
Nag-take off na siya.
Yes, yes,
Nagtapos na yung hand-holding.
yes.
Nagtapos na.
And that you perpetuate it. You now assume the role for others.
Wow. And then later on, the mentee becomes a mentor.
Yes, yes. In fact,
Kasi,
that's what happens in the bank that I work for. Eventually, the mentees become mentors after 5 years, 6 years.
so that is the services. Okay, just one last question, because you mentioned it in passing. I just would like to know, what are now the key roles of the mentors play?
Okay.
Just to conclude.
Okay. Well, in most cases, it's really as advisor, coach, facilitator of experience. In most
Yeah.
cases. Yung taga sort ng complications.
Yeah.
Kasi very often, young people find situations too complex that they're not able to sort them out themselves. So they need somebody to help them sort out the problems themselves. No? Also, sometimes the mentor is really a sounding board. Okay, so the mentor needs to be a really good counselor so that you do not become a sponge where you absorb everything, but rather you become a mirror that the mentee is able to view the situation more objectively. Um, Mentors need to become confidants, like trusted people that you can, share certain things with, their confusions, their doubts about themselves, because we all go through those moments of self-doubts. The mentor very often needs to become a motivator. Kasi, diba, hindi lahat ng araw nagigising kang go, go, go eh. May araw talagang ayaw ng mundo. Feeling mo ayaw ng mundong lumigaya ka sa
That
buhay
is
mo.
that's on the slant of the mentee. So the one who's going to
Yes.
motivate are the mentors.
Or somebody who challenges you. The mentor can also do that role, a challenger. Okay.
Right.
Or sometimes the mentor becomes the source of organizational knowledge. Kasi, again, very often, ang mentor really helps sort out the political. At tanggapin natin kasi in all organizations, yung pinakamahirap talaga sa high potentials is managing politics in the organization. So you need a mentor to help you survive the political situations.
And then one thing, the DNA. Sometimes the DNA of the organization is not passed on.
Yes. Or even culture is something that happens in the socialization process.
Yeah.
Diba? I mean, there's only so much you can do in terms of the artifacts. But
Yeah.
in terms of what the real culture is, that can only be passed on and clarified in relational situations. Actually, anak, ganito yun. Dapat.
I am smiling, Sir Bong. That means not only in organization, even in associations.
Yes. Politics is a reality wherever you go.
Well, anyway, thank you very much. It's a wonderful. Yeah, promise me that you'll have to come back here. It's not only mentoring that I know this is one of your love, but I would like you to come back. Let us discuss OD. I would like to discuss.
Pwede bang pag-usapan natin poetry and it's
No, no,
Oo.
poetry. Sige, only a poetry. Sige, sige. Now, a week
Oo.
from now, ha? A week from now, you come back.
Oo, basta like
2 weeks from now.
may
2 weeks
papel
from now.
bang poetry in management, 'di ba?
Yes,
Kasi there are a lot of
I'll-
articles that actually say the better CEOs are those that appreciate
let's
poetry.
do that. Let's do that. Let's schedule a session. Sir Bong, time runs so fast and you only have an
Okay.
hour. What is your parting message to all our viewers? And then, of course, we are going to share this later on.
Na, well, I always like to tell people, no, if you want 1 year of prosperity, magtanim na lang kayo ng rice, go grain. If you want 10 years of prosperity, grow trees. But if you want 100 years of prosperity, grow people. And by the way, that's not mine. Actually, that's by a Chinese philosopher. Actually, our country, our only lasting source of competitive advantage is people, because most of our natural resources, they're gone already. But what we do have are people. Okay, and the best way to develop people is to mentor them. That we can all do.
Wow. Strong statement from 2011 past president of Tino. I'm
Thank
lost.
you.
Thank you very much, Sir Bong. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we heard it from Sir Bong. We need mentoring, and it has to be structured. And we need to invest on people that they should learn how to mentor, and then also mindset people that they should be willing mentees. And as mentioned by our special guest, this is what we need. This is what we need. That we have to have. Right after this, during our lunch, we take late lunch again. I have to mentor my sons and my helpers. This is a little way I am trying to help the country prosper later on. And then, of course, I will try to influence and tell in my next webinar with ECOP that they must have the right mentoring program. And I will share this. Please share this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a wonderful conversation. Let us be mentors and let us be willing mentees, and then later on become effective mentors. Diyos mabalus po. Ito si Jesse Francis Rebustillo.